For decades, tourism has been celebrated. It is seen as a powerful engine for economic growth. It connects cultures and opens minds. Countries and cities have competed fiercely to attract visitors, promising pristine beaches, historic wonders, and unforgettable experiences. The core belief was simple: more tourists meant more prosperity. But a significant shift is now underway. Across the globe, from the sunny shores of Spain to the ancient streets of Japan, a new and powerful sentiment is rising. It is a wave of anti-tourism, a pushback from local communities who feel they are paying too high a price for the world's wanderlust. This is not about a dislike for individual visitors. Instead, it is a desperate plea from residents who find their homes becoming unrecognizable and unaffordable. The dream of a bustling tourism economy is turning into a nightmare for many. The very attractions that draw in millions are becoming sources of deep-seated frustration. Imagine living in a city where your quiet neighborhood street is permanently clogged with tour groups. Imagine the local bakery you have visited for years being replaced by a souvenir shop. This is the daily reality in many tourism hotspots. The constant influx of people strains public services like sanitation, transportation, and healthcare. The sheer volume of visitors creates an environment where locals feel like extras in a theme park, their daily lives disrupted and their cultural identity diluted by a transient, ever-changing population. The welcome mat is wearing thin, and in some places it is being pulled away entirely. The core of the issue lies in the concept of overtourism. This happens when the number of visitors to a destination becomes unsustainable. The negative impacts begin to outweigh the economic benefits. The most visible symptom is overcrowding. Famous landmarks, beaches, and city centers are swamped, diminishing the experience for both tourists and locals. But the problems run much deeper. The demand for short-term vacation rentals, like those on Airbnb, drives up housing prices. This makes it impossible for local workers, young people, and families to afford to live in their own cities. They are pushed to the outskirts, far from their jobs and communities, while their former homes are converted into temporary lodging for travelers. This growing tension has moved from quiet conversations to loud public demonstrations. Throughout 2024 and 2025, the world has watched as citizens take to the streets. They are not protesting against the idea of travel itself. They are protesting a specific model of mass tourism that prioritizes profit over people and the planet. They carry signs that read, "Tourists go home," and "My city is not for sale." These are not just isolated incidents. They represent a coordinated global movement of communities demanding to reclaim their cities. They are calling for new rules and a more sustainable approach to an industry that has for too long operated without sufficient checks and balances, leaving locals to deal with the consequences. Spain has become the epicenter of Europe's anti-tourism movement. The country, which welcomed a staggering 42.5 million tourists in the first half of 2024 alone, is grappling with the severe side effects of its own success. In cities like Barcelona, Palma de Mallorca, and across the Canary Islands, residents have organized massive protests. On June 15, 2025, coordinated demonstrations took place in at least 15 Spanish cities demanding stricter limits on tourism. These were not small gatherings, they were outpourings of public anger. In one protest in July 2024, thousands marched in Barcelona, with some even using water guns on tourists to express their frustration. This is a clear signal that patience has run out. A primary driver of this anger is the housing crisis. In Barcelona, the explosion of short-term vacation rentals over the last decade caused rental prices to soar by nearly 70%. Home prices jumped by almost 40%. This has made the city unaffordable for the very people who give it life. In response, the city's government has announced a drastic plan. By 2028, it will revoke the licenses for over 10,000 apartments currently used for short-term lets. The goal is to convert these properties back into long-term housing for residents. It is a bold move, one that other cities are watching closely. The message from Barcelona is clear. The right to housing for its citizens must take precedence over the profits from tourism. The environmental cost of mass tourism is another major concern, especially in a country facing severe water scarcity. A tourist in Spain on average uses about 900 liters of water per day. In sharp contrast, a local resident uses around 250 liters. This massive disparity puts an incredible strain on water resources, particularly in dry regions like the Canary and Balearic Islands. Furthermore, tourists generate significantly more waste. This puts pressure on local infrastructure and contributes to pollution. In response, authorities are implementing green taxes. The Balearic Islands now charge visitors a sustainable tourism tax of up to €4 per night, with the funds going toward environmental protection projects. Spanish authorities are now moving beyond protests and implementing concrete regulations. In addition to Barcelona's housing plan, the Canary Islands introduced a new tourist tax in January 2025 to manage the impact of visitors. In Palma de Mallorca, a 2022 law is now being strictly enforced, requiring hotels to reduce their carbon emissions and water usage. The law also places a moratorium on building new tourist accommodations, effectively capping the number of visitors the island can host. These measures show a fundamental shift in policy. The focus is no longer just on attracting more tourists, but on managing them in a way that protects the local community and the environment for the long term. The struggle against overtourism is not limited to Spain, it is a global phenomenon. In Venice, a city famously sinking under the weight of its own popularity, residents have been protesting for years. The city has become a symbol of the destructive power of mass tourism. In a landmark decision, large cruise ships were banned from the city center in 2021. More recently, in April 2024, Venice began charging day trippers a €5 entry fee on peak days. The goal is to discourage casual visitors who contribute little to the local economy while adding to the crowds. Though some protesters decried the move with banners reading "Welcome to Veniceland," it represents a desperate attempt by the city to gain some control. Across the world in Japan, similar tensions are rising. The country saw a record 36.87 million international visitors in 2024. The historic city of Kyoto, with a population of 1.5 million, was overwhelmed by about 32 million tourists last year. Locals complained that their city was being treated like a theme park. In response, the city took action. In October 2024, authorities banned tourists from entering the private alleys of the famous Gion district, home to geishas. This was done to protect the privacy and daily lives of residents. The election of a new mayor on an anti-overtourism platform shows that the public's concerns are now a powerful political force. Other cities are adopting different strategies. Amsterdam launched a direct and somewhat confrontational stay-away campaign. It specifically targets young British men searching online for stag parties and cheap getaways. The campaign uses videos showing drunken tourists being arrested, sending a clear message that rowdy, disrespectful behavior will not be tolerated. In Croatia, the city of Split has introduced steep €300 fines for antisocial behavior. This includes actions like urinating in public, climbing on monuments, or sleeping in public spaces. These measures are designed to enforce a standard of conduct and remind visitors that they are guests in someone else's home, not a lawless playground. Even in the United States, there are signs of a changing attitude, though for different reasons. The United States is projected to be the only major country where spending from foreign visitors will fall in 2025. This is partly due to a perception that the country has become less welcoming to foreigners. While not driven by over-tourism, it highlights how a nation's political climate and social attitudes can impact its appeal. From Europe to Asia to the Americas, a complex conversation is unfolding. Destinations are being forced to ask difficult questions about the kind of tourism they want and the price they are willing to pay for it. The era of unchecked growth appears to be coming to an end. The growing anti-tourism sentiment is a critical wake-up call for the global travel industry. It signals that the current model of mass tourism is broken and unsustainable. The future of travel depends on finding a better balance, one that respects local communities, protects fragile environments, and still allows for the enriching experience of exploration. This will require a fundamental shift in thinking from governments, companies, and tourists alike. One promising solution is the promotion of dispersal tourism. This involves encouraging travelers to visit lesser-known destinations instead of concentrating in a few famous hotspots. This can help spread the economic benefits more evenly and relieve pressure on overwhelmed cities. Governments and local authorities will play a crucial role in shaping a more sustainable future. The new regulations we see in Spain, Venice and Kyoto are just the beginning. We can expect more cities to implement measures like tourist caps, higher taxes, and strict rules for short-term rentals. Technology can also help. Timed entry systems for popular attractions, like the one used at the Acropolis in Athens, can manage visitor flow and prevent overcrowding. The revenue generated from new tourist taxes can be reinvested directly into local infrastructure, affordable housing projects, and environmental conservation, ensuring that tourism gives back more than it takes from the community. Ultimately, the power to change tourism for the better also lies with travelers themselves. Responsible tourism is no longer a niche concept, it is a necessity. It starts with simple choices. Travelers can choose to visit during the off-season to help reduce crowding. They can stay in locally owned hotels or guest houses instead of international chains, ensuring their money directly supports the community. Learning a few words of the local language, respecting cultural norms, and being mindful of resource consumption, like water and electricity, are small acts that show respect. It is about shifting the mindset from being a consumer to being a guest. The world is not closing its doors. Instead, it is asking for a new kind of visitor. It is asking for travelers who are conscious, respectful, and curious. The future of travel will be less about ticking off a bucket list of famous sites and more about meaningful connection and positive impact. By embracing slower, more thoughtful travel, we can ensure that destinations remain vibrant places for people to live and welcoming spaces for people to visit. This new era of travel will demand more from all of us, but it promises a richer, more sustainable experience for everyone involved, ensuring that the wonders of our world can be enjoyed for generations to come.